So this lesbian walks into a Muslim barbershop and asks for a businessman's haircut. Now, if that sounds like the beginning of a very politically incorrect joke, you're right. But you're the punchline in this joke because it really happened, and now it's going to a kangaroo court called the Ontario Human Rights Tribunal, which now will have an actual investigation and formal hearing into the matter, which is why you're the punchline, because you're going to wind up paying about $1 million tax dollars for this joke. It's a government agency. Look, I can actually see both sides of this story. Faith McGregor is a lesbian who wants a haircut, and she doesn't like the girly cut that they do at the women's salon. You can see why. She really wants to look like a boy, and so it makes sense to go where boys get their haircuts. But I can understand why the Muslim barbers don't want to do it either. Omar Farouk, the owner of the barbershop, follows Sharia law. He's a Muslim fundamentalist, and so he thinks women have the cooties. As Farouk and other barbers there told reporters, they don't believe in touching women other than their own wives. The fact that McGregor is a lesbian surely makes things even worse. So in a normal world, the lesbian would go elsewhere for a haircut and maybe bitch about it to her friends. I mean, that's half the point of having friends, right? Having people to complain about the world's little unfairnesses to. If McGregor was really mad, there are things she can do. She could try to whip up a boycott of Farouk's place, the Terminal Barbershop on Bay Street in Toronto. She could set up a website to tell her story. She could complain to every reporter in town, which she has already done, actually, and some reporters from other towns, too. She could write letters to the editor of the newspapers, calling into radio talk shows to try and get people mad about what happened to her, and then try to get those mad people to boycott the Terminal Barbershop. She could even stand outside the barbershop with a picket sign saying they discriminate against women. Now, if every lesbian in town boycotted the barbershop, I don't think the barbers would mind. Like I say, they don't want women folk darkening their doorsteps. But maybe if gay men joined in the boycott too, it would make a dent in their business. But then again, maybe the Muslim fundamentalist barbers there don't want gay clients who are men either. Okay, but fine. Maybe there are enough people in Toronto in general who are so upset by this, whether they're straight or gay, that this barbershop would feel some economic pain. But I doubt it myself. In fact, for every liberal client they'd lose, I think they'd probably gain a client who was a Muslim fundamentalist who would love that halal haircut. Look, that's what multiculturalism and unlimited immigration from illiberal countries means in 2012. It doesn't mean what people thought multiculturalism meant back in the 1980s when it was forced on Canada, some more pavilions at Folk Fest, some more great restaurants in town. That's not multi-restaurantism or multi-dances on Canada Day-ism. It's multiculturalism, and a central pillar of some cultures is the second-class citizenship of women. And that's being diplomatic. I mean, some cultures believe that women who aren't covered in a burqa ought to be stoned to death. We see that in our so-called honor killings that have even come to Canada. And don't get me started on how fundamentalist Islam treats gays. In Iran alone, between 4,000 and 6,000 gay men and women have been executed since the revolution 30 years ago for the crime of being gay. That's the culture over there. So if we Canadians now believe in multiculturalism and that our Canadian culture of tolerance isn't any better than the Sharia culture of sex crimes and gender apartheid, who are we to complain when Omar Farouk takes us up on our promise that he can continue to practice his culture? Lesbian haircuts be damned. He's not the one who passed the Multiculturalism Act and who invited in hundreds of thousands of immigrants with medieval attitudes towards women and gays and Jews, etc. We did that. Listen, by the way, I'm for immigration. Pretty much all of us here in Canada, except the Indians, were immigrants. And anthropologists and historians say even the Indians came over the Bering Strait thousands of years ago. We're all newcomers in a way. I'm just saying multiculturalism, democracy, liberalism. Choose any two of those. You can't have all three. We thought we could have all three. But Omar Farouk isn't really big into the liberalism part, is he? And with 250,000 other Muslims in Toronto alone, I'm guessing Faith McGregor is the best advertising that ever happened to the Terminal Barbershop. Now, I'm not pleased with Omar Farouk's discrimination, even if Faith McGregor turns out to be a bit of a controversy chaser and a perpetual whiner. I believe in property rights, though. I believe if you own a business, you're free to choose your own customers. That's freedom of association. And in this case, it's freedom of religion, too. Too bad Farouk's religion is so reactionary when it comes to women. But Faith McGregor didn't drop it there, of course. She ran to the Ontario Human Rights Tribunal. It's a multi-million-dollar government agency with a very simple mission statement: to pit Canadians against each other based on our ethnic or sexual or racial identities. In other words, the Human Rights Tribunal doesn't see you and me as Canadians. They put us into little categories. I'm a Jewish Canadian, you're black, you're Muslim, you're a woman, you're gay. They tell us that our rights and privileges depend on these immaterial characteristics. It's pretty much the opposite of what Martin Luther King Jr. said. Remember his motto? By the content of our character, not the color of our skin. It's pretty much the opposite of that archetypical image of blind justice. You know, that justice will not look at you, but only what you've done. So what do you call a group of people who want to judge you and give or take away your rights based on irrelevant criteria like race? Well, we call them racists, sorry. That's what the Ontario Human Rights Commission and the Tribunal are. They're grievance mongers. They're race baiters. They're hucksters. So Faith McGregor ran to them and demanded that they force Omar Marouk to give her a damn haircut. It would take McGregor 10 minutes to find another barber down the street. I mean, Bay Street, come on. But she's going to spend a year ringing the Muslim barbers through a government prosecution because, well, because she knows she can. And it's not going to cost her a dime. That's the punchline part here. You and I are the ones who are paying for her nuisance complaint, paying for all the bureaucrats and lawyers and the kangaroo court judges to have a big federal case about this. Now, in the past, human rights commissions have been a great ally to gay activists because traditionally gay activists have fought against, well, Christians. And white Christians are pretty much the one ethnic identity group that human rights commissions don't value, pretty much the one group that multiculturalism doesn't include. So in recent years, Canadian human rights commissions, for example, have ordered that an Ontario health club that's women's only has to allow a pre-operative transsexual, that's a fella with all his plumbing, to change in the locker room with the other women. I'm not kidding. Human rights commissions have ordered that Christian bed and breakfast owners have to take in gay couples into their homes. But here's my prediction. I predict that in the case of the Muslim barbers, the gay activists have finally met their politically correct match. I predict that the Human Rights Commission is about to give gay activists a lesson in the capricious nature of fake human rights, like the fake right not to be offended. See, the worst thing about human rights commissions is their fraudulent name. They don't actually defend real rights. They destroy them using counterfeit rights. Now, property rights are a real right. Freedom of religion and speech are real rights. You can look those up in our Constitution. But the right not to be offended, the right to stay in someone's bedroom, the right to get a barber to cut your hair, those are demands. They're desires masquerading as rights. No real court would hear Faith McGregor's complaint that some guy didn't want to cut her hair because there is no real right of hers that has been violated. That's why she's going to the kangaroo courts, where they make up fake rights and use the power of the government to bully people into submission. But here's where McGregor miscalculates. She's politically correct, but not politically correct enough. See, political correctness is like poker. So a white Christian male has the lowest poker hand. It's like he's got nothing, just like a high card, maybe one ace. So almost everyone trumps him. A white woman is just a bit higher, like having a pair of twos. Enough to beat a white man, but really not much more. Now, a gay man is like having two pairs. That's pretty good. A gay woman, a lesbian like Faith McGregor, well, that's like three of a kind. That's pretty powerful. Now, a black lesbian, that is a full house. Pretty tough to beat that in politically correct poker, unless she's also in a wheelchair. Which means she's pretty much a straight flush. The only thing that could trump that would be a royal flush. I'm thinking of the late Sammy Davis Jr., black, Jewish, half blind, if he were to convert to Islam and discover he was 1/64th Aboriginal. So which is a better hand in politically correct poker? A lesbian who wants a boy's haircut or a Muslim who doesn't want to give it to her because she's a girl? I'm betting on the barber. See, Omar Marouk is a Muslim immigrant with an accent. And more than that, his religion has special bonus points in poker. If Marouk were a brown immigrant who happened to be a Christian, he'd be dead in the water here. But Islam has a special human rights bonus point. Here's proof. Last year, the Ontario Human Rights Commission went on the warpath against apartment for rent ads online that were bigoted. And by bigoted, they gave crazy examples, saying you only wanted a student, for example, or only wanted single women, for example, or only young professionals as a tenant. Well, that would be ageist or sexist or have a jobist. They said that they were going to crack down on those landlords. and even on the online websites advertising, single female roommate wanted. But a local newspaper reporter pointed out that the same For Rent website had 32 apartment for rent ads specifically for Muslims only. And the Human Rights Commission was absolutely fine with that. Why? Why the double standard? Well, because the Human Rights Commission is nothing but a group of political hacks. Their boss in Ontario, Barbara Hall, is a failed left-wing mayor of Toronto. This isn't about the law for her. It's about left-wing social engineering and bossing people around and playing favorites. And though I'm sure she actually does deeply sympathize with the lesbian here, well, sorry, brown immigrant Muslims with an accent just have the trump card. Plus, and don't kid yourself about it, lesbian groups don't riot or blow stuff up when they don't get their way. We're at the 10-year mark of a world war against fundamentalists who do that sort of thing. I'm quite sure that Omar Marouk is a very peaceful man, but other Muslim fundamentalists aren't as peaceful. Don't think that's not on the mind of politically correct busybodies like Barbara Hall. I predict Marouk will win. And I predict that Muslim activists, not quiet barbers like Marouk, but Muslim busybodies like a Muslim Faith McGregor is, will start using human rights commissions more and more and more to push their way into places where they have no legal right, but where the Human Rights Commission is more than happy to engineer things for them socially. Human rights commissions run on who's the most offended out there. Well, nothing trumps an Islamic fundamentalist in the I'm offended department, not even a gay activist. Look, I've seen it before. Muslim radicals have taken over human rights commissions to censor free speech, including in my case. If I were a gay activist like Faith McGregor, I'd probably want to declare victory and press to shut down these human rights commissions right now. In 5 years' time, it's not going to be gay activists forcing themselves into Christian bed and breakfasts. It'll be Muslim activists vetoing Toronto's gay pride parade. You mark my words.